That was baritone Armand Crabbe in the Valse Lente, the slow waltz of the composer Berger. Good evening, this is Doug Fox, host of Fine Arts Radio's Evening at the Opera. Tonight our program is Belgian opera singers. We have much rare material that has never been heard on the radio in this country before. We have a fascinating guest, Pierre Van de Weghe, who has come to us from Belgium to do this program. If you have a cassette tape deck, get it running, get a tape in, because you are not going to hear this material, and this material is going to send you into ecstasy. Now, the next item we have for you is the Belgian national anthem, the French version, because my guest will explain that Belgium is a country with more than one language, sung by the great tenor Fernand Anceau from 1938, La Brabançon. Tenor Fernand Anceau, A-N-S-S-E-A-U, in La Brabançon, the Belgian national anthem. This is a recording made in 1930. Without further ado, I want to turn the microphone over to my guest, Pierre Van de Weghe, who's here with us from Belgium. He's a native of Ghent, and to Pierre I say, goedenavond, welcome.
Thank you, Doc.
And I also say, since you also speak the other Belgian language fluently, bonsoir, bienvenue, sois le bienvenu à WMNR.
Merci beaucoup.
Pierre Van de Weghe, tell us a little bit about what we've heard, Armand Crabbe and Fernand Anso.
Well, the Fernand Anso recording was made in 1930, especially for the centenary of Belgium, because the state Belgium became independent in 1830. And our next recording, Amour sacré de la patrie, sung by Beckmans and Cazin, was always also made in that same year to remember the revolution in Brussels that began with a representation of the opera La Muette de Portici. So the legend tells us. I don't know if it's really true, but they always learned us at school that after the duet, the public stood up and an opera began in Brussels and spread all over the country. What I wanted to say also is that you heard La Brabançonne sung in French by Anso, but that Belgium is not a French-talking country, but there are 6 million people who speak Dutch and 4 million people who speak French at the moment. So there's always also a Flemish or a Dutch version of La Brabançonne that I don't have. I don't even know if there's a recording of the Dutch version. So can we listen to the tenor Cazin and the baritone José Beckmans in that famous duet Amour sacré de la patrie?
Holy love of the country.
Yes, that's it.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, as usual, if you wish to call us tonight with requests for particular Belgian opera singers, with requests for a particular repertory, with comments about what you're hearing, with anecdotes that you might wish to share with us about Belgian singers you've heard, whether here or elsewhere or in Belgium itself, we'd love to hear from you while music is on only, please, at 203-268-9667.
Que va-t-il m'apprendre? Personne ici ne connaît mon malheur. Je ne l'ai confié qu'à l'ami le plus tendre. Parle, as-tu découvert le destin de ma sœur? Ce peine-là, le sort est encore un mystère. Vainement j'y cherchais la trace de ses pas, sans doute un ravisseur. Courage, et moi son frère, je n'ai pu le sauver. Mais de tels attentats recevront à la fin leur juste récompense. Que te reste-t-il? La vengeance. Mieux vaut mourir que rester misérable pour un esclave et quelque danger. Tombe le jour qui nous accable et sous le coup périsse l'étranger, périsse l'étranger. esclave est-il quelque danger? Tombe le jour qui nous accable, et sous nos coups hérissent l'étranger, hérissent l'étranger. Amour sacré de la patrie, rends-nous l'audace et la fierté. À mon pays, je dois la vie, il me donnera la liberté. Amour sacré, rends-nous l'audace et la patrie. Amour sacré, rends-nous l'audace et la fierté. À mon pays, je dois la vie, il me donnera la liberté. Amour sacré de la patrie, rends-nous l'audace et la fierté. À mon pays, je dois la dire, il me donnera la liberté. Amour sacré, rends-nous l'audace et la patrie. Amour sacré, rends-nous l'audace et la fierté. Rends-nous l'audace et la fierté. L'audace et la fierté. Rends-nous l'audace et la fierté. L'audace et la fierté. L'audace et la fierté. L'audace et la fierté. Rends-nous l'audace et la fierté. Et la fierté.
The duet Amour Sacré de la Patrie from La Mouette de Portici. I'm going to ask my assistant to please close the door as these calls come in. Thank you. And we heard the Belgian singer's tenor, I think Frans Morrisson and Cazin, and the baritone José Beckmans. And Pierre Van de Weghe, you would please take over if you wish to tell us anything more about this historic opera, or whatever it is you'd like to tell us.
About
singers or whatever. We had our
the
first...
singers. No, it was very popular. The La Muette de Portici, I believe that it's translated is the mute of Portici. So it's rather cynical name for an opera.
The main character doesn't sing.
The main character doesn't sing. But even Richard Wagner found it a masterpiece when he was young. So it can be quoted as a second-rate opera of those days, and there were so many on those days.
Pierre, we had our first phone call of the evening from Russ Hornbeck, calling us from Danbury. Russ has been a guest in this program before, and of course you have met him. He said he was extremely happy that you played José Beckmans, and he had a request, which we'll get to later on, for a particular Belgian singer.
Okay.
So thanks, Russ.
We have plenty of Beckmans. May we introduce the following Belgian singer now?
Please.
That's Claudine Bones. Is that a...
Yes,
good,
indeed, yes.
Claudine Bones.
Which is spelled, it looks like Boons.
Boons, yes, and it's... for me, it's the finest dramatic soprano we ever had. She died very young in 1944 and sang at the Théâtre de la Monnaie in Brussels from the beginning of the 1930s until 1944, the year she died. Let's listen first to a French version of Aïda, Ritorna vincitor, vers nous revient vainqueur.
That was Claudine Bons, the Belgian dramatic soprano, and Pierre will be commenting on that in French language version of Ritorno Vincitore from Aida. Pierre Van de Weghe, please tell us about Claudine Bons or My Error or whatever you like. because it's a perfect entree for you.
Yes, it was a Belgian soprano and not a French soprano. Of course, she sang in French, but that doesn't mean she could be a Flemish-speaking woman who spoke her second language very well. But I find it one of the most beautiful voices Belgium ever had in that kind of dramatic soprano. And her voice is, for me, even more beautiful in the next recording of an aria from the opera Gismonda by Henri Février.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, call us at any time when music is on only, please, 203-268-9667 with your requests for and questions about Belgian opera singers. If you're a little bit at a loss, we have playing a great deal of the standard French opera repertory, and you might request something from a particular composer in that repertory, and we'd love to hear from you. Claudine Bones and Pierre Van de Weghe, before you tell us about this, I'd just like to mention that Julio de la Torre called in. He said, for singing of the nature we've heard so far in this program tonight, he would go on his knees to hear these singers. And he says, you, Pierre Van de Weghe, are remarkable. Thanks you. No, it's true. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Pierre, but your comment on Bones that I interrupted.
Yes, that's nothing. I would like to go a little farther in the past now and let you hear a recording of Max Bouvet, who was born in 1854 and who created the role of Alfio in Cavalleria Rusticana in Paris in 1884, I believe, if I'm not not wrong. It can be 89, but he made this recording in 1907. So it's an elderly singer we hear, and it's a Hill and Dale recording of a Pathé record that I've tried to record as good as possible.
Without a Hill and Dale machine.
Yes.
And I think you did a remarkable job.
Yes.
L'acmé, ton doux regard se voile. Chanté par Monsieur Bouvet, c'est pas tes frères. L'acmé, ton doux regard se voile. Oh, sourire, c'est attristé. Oh, mon voix pâlir une étoile, une ombre assombrit ta beauté. C'est que Dieu nous se retire, c'est qu'il attend la mort du criminel.
Pierre Van de Weghe, what did we just hear?
That was Maximilien Bouvet, born in 1854, singing L'acmé, ton doux regard se voile, recorded in 1907, chez Pathé Frères. And I would return to the two singers we heard in the beginning of the program, Frans Morrisson and José Beckmans, who sing a duet from an opera, Richard Cœur de Lion, Richard the Lionheart, by also Belgian composer Grétry, André Modeste Grétry.
And we're again welcoming your phone calls, listeners. We've had a couple of phone calls, couple of requests. It's Belgian opera singers and many great singers, 203-268-9667. How many of you have heard any Belgian singers or been to the Opera House in Belgium? And what are your comments about what you're hearing? And is there any particular repertoire? We're very big on the French repertoire in particular, but we have material of other kinds. Call us while music is on only, please, at 203-268-9667. I'm Doug Fox, your host. My guest has come to us from Ghent in Belgium, Pierre Van de Weghe. And maybe some of you have been to Ghent, have been to the Opera House, have been to the Monet in Brussels. Tell us about it. Pierre Van de Weghe, could you tell us what we just heard?
Well, it was the duet from Richard Cœur de Lion by André Modeste Grétry, sang by Frans Cazin and José Beckmans. And there has been some phone calls about the singers who sang in America.
Yes, that call, Pierre, came from Helen Master of Marlborough, New York.
Yes.
She says these singers
So
have beautiful voices, and who sang in America. Yes.
the first one we already heard, who sang our national anthem. Anthem, yes, sorry.
Hymne National.
Hymne National was, of course, Fernand Anceau, who was in the company of Mary Garden in Chicago. And the first song of the program by Armand Crabbe, Crabbe song in South America, was the adored in the Teatro Colón in Buenos Aires.
Did he sing in the United States also? Or?
No, I don't, or in little roles, but I don't think he sang at the Met and all those. South America, Europe, in Europe and Italy, but not at the Met. That was for Anceau, and the following singer we're gonna hear, the bass baritone Albert Huberty, who sings, I believe, on our schedule, Le Ronde du Veau d'Or from Faust.
First we have from by Huberty from Patrie
yes.
Paladil,
Yes.
Pauvre Martyr Obscur, that's in
Yes.
1931.
Yes.
And why don't we put that on and we'll come back. We had a call, Pierre, from Charles Hinckley in Bethel. Actually, he's on the phone, so I'll get his message and come back on that one. Okay. Huberty.
Mourir fidèle au devoir accepté, c'est accomplir dans l'ombre un noble sacrifice, d'aller au but faire repas sans que la
From Hills, and you help me,
Pauvre
Pierre.
martyr.
Pauvre Martyr Obscur, from his Patrie. The composer's a French composer, right?
Yes.
That composer's a French composer, right?
Yes.
That was Albert Huberty, the French, again, the Belgian baritone singing in French. Now, to get back to this call from Charles Hinckley of Bethel, he says he was in Ghent in 1986, and he was in a bar. I think he's a musician himself. He was practicing, and there was a singer, an opera singer named Kurt Fleming, whom Mr. Hinckley thinks was Flemish, who was practicing for about 2 hours his operatic repertory, and he was selling 2 albums, LP albums, of himself singing opera, and they were called Gala Concert, one of them, and the other one is Zingt, Z-I-N-G-T, that sings in Flemish. Anything at all about this singer whom we just talked about?
Well, he had a short career at the opera in Ghent, but
so you
as I'm an old dinosaurs in record collecting, I know his name. I have an LP by him accidentally, but he doesn't really belong to the great singers of that pre-war period.
Did you ever hear him sing?
I have. In reality, yes. It was only a small voice.
So how do you like that, Charles? Pierre can answer anything. Folks, so don't be inhibited. Call in.
It was
music is on only 203-268-9667.
Maybe I can tell.
Please.
Maybe I can tell that Albert Huberty is a Fleming who was born in 1881 and made his debut at the Flemish Opera in Antwerp. So he started in Dutch, singing in Dutch, and afterwards he went to Paris and studied with Hippolyte Bellhomme, a name that much collectors know, I suppose. And he started his French career as first boss in Rouen. Then he went to Covent Garden. In 1909, he came to New Orleans. From 1911 to 1913, he sang in Montreal. And just before the First World War, he returned to Belgium and passed his career, sang further during the First World War at the Opéra Comique and the Opera Grand Opéra in Paris until 1939. So he had an enormous career. He was the first Falstaff in Brussels, the creator of Falstaff in Brussels.
Now, Pierre, we had a request from Lara Corman of West Haven.
Something popular.
From Le Veau d'Or. She wants to say Le Veau d'Or from Faust, the bass aria. And we have Albert Huberty singing that.
That, yes.
And I wondered if you like, could we follow that without pause, or do you want to pause with the next item, which would be Jean Montfort, the mezzo singing Mon Coeur from Samson and Delilah?
Okay.
Okay, we'll put them on together, or?
We put them on together,
Good. Do you want to tell us anything about Montfort now, or
I don't. Back? It's a mystery, Jean Montfort, for me. Okay. She was born in Belgium, sang a little while at the Monet, and then passed her career in the provincial houses in France, I suppose. Maybe she sang at the Grand Opéra in Paris, but I'm not sure.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight it's Belgian opera singers. My guest Pierre Van de Weghe is here from Belgium with us. And we've had a call from one listener who was in Pierre's hometown of Ghent and met a Belgian opera singer. And we'd love to get your comments and your requests for singers and repertory.
Vous qui faites à l'endormir, n'entendez-vous pas, aux 14 mamie, n'entendez-vous pas, ma voix et mes pas, ainsi son galant appelle, son galant appelle, et ton cœur l'encroît. Ouvre ta porte, ma belle, que la vague au doigt. Ouvre ta porte, ma belle, que la vague au doigt, que la vague au doigt. Catherine que j'adore, pourquoi refuser à l'amant qui vous implore, pourquoi refuser ainsi vous baiser, ainsi ton galant supplie, ton galant supplie, et ton cœur l'encroît. Me donne un baiser, mamie, que la vague au doigt.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, yes, I know I got my operas right, but I certainly didn't get the items right. And it's a good thing my guest, Pierre Van de Weghe, hasn't just left, but he's very patient and long-suffering. Instead of Le Veau d'Or from Faust by Huberti, of course, we heard the Serenade, Vous qui faites l'endormir. And then instead of Mon cœur s'ouvre à ta voix from Samson by Jean Montfort, we heard instead Printemps qui commence. But at least if I made a mistake, I had the right opera.
The opera was right.
And beautiful, beautiful arias and
yes.
Beautiful singing. And let's see, we don't know much about Montfort.
But it was really a contralto, huh?
Yeah, deeper voice.
Deep contralto, the sort of voice you don't find anymore in France and in Belgium.
Yes.
The next one is a lighter case.
Mm-hmm. So you would like to
introduce Lily Dupré.
Lily Dupré, and she'll be singing from Les Huguenots.
Les Huguenots.
Yes, do you tell
L'air de la Reine.
Yes.
Au mon beau pays de la Touraine.
Do you want to tell us now about the artist or later?
Yeah, no, because it's an obscure soprano. She's very sought after by collectors, but we don't know very much about. She's sung in provincial houses in France, Bordeaux, in Antwerp, in the French theater. By the way, there were two opera houses in Antwerp, Flemish opera and a French opera house. And there was a great distinction between the singers of the French opera house and the Flemish opera house. It was a different school of singing. The Flemish was German, and in French opera it was automatically the French style who was on the first place, and one could let come many French singers to Antwerp, and many Belgian singers went to France. Also Flemings, German trained, who were capable of singing Wagner in French or in Dutch or in German, no problem for those ones. But that wasn't the case for Lily Dupré, who must have been born about 1880 and recorded L'air de la Reine that we shall hear. It's a 12-inch record on both sides, so it's a long aria with a long introduction with the flute. But I think it is a beautiful and unique record.
This is a famous record.
A famous record by an unknown Belgian singer.
Our number is 203-268-9667. Call us with your requests and comments about Belgian opera singers when music is on. Well, Lily Dupré, from what did we hear, Pierre?
Well, some collectors pretend she sings flat. I'm one of her supporters. So I'm not of that opinion.
Well,
I think she's one of the greatest coloraturas we ever had.
Well,
but on the other hand, it's strange that she never sang in any great opera house in France. Never sang at the Opéra Comique or the Grand Opera. So maybe it's her most beautiful record she ever made. And was she only a second-rate singer? But I leave it to the public and to the reactions of our listeners to judge about that. After Lede-Dupré, maybe some will find it a horrible voice, but I will return to Armand Crabbe, who has not a good style of singing. It's swollen. His style of swollen voice it's no style at all. He pretends in his book he learned this style from Nelly Melba and Caruso, and that Italian style was the only good way the Italian school was the only way to sing. But for my opinion, he doesn't sing any school at all. Neither the French school. Some people think in Belgium, for example, that when they hear Crabbe, oh, that's typical French school. That isn't true. Crabbe is everything except the French school. But it's what we call a cabotin, like Richard Tauber is. He can captivate you with his way. He sings songs and arias. And I wanted to play now a song he composed himself. It's one of his last recordings he ever made. It's called La Rubia, and it's made in 1932 for Decca.
And before we put Armand Crabbe on, I'd just like to mention, I neglected to do this before, that the first item we heard by Albert Huberti, the Patrie aria, comes from a new CD on VAI, From Bourbon Street to Paradise, the French Opera House of New Orleans and its singers, 1859 to 1919. And this CD, the transfers on it, were made by our first caller of the evening, Russ Hornbeck. And October 13th, the producer of this CD, Lewis Hall, will be my guest for a program on this topic. Our number is 203-268-9667, baritone Armand Crabbe, La Rubia.
Le verre de tes beaux yeux m'enterre, brûle mon cœur jaloux. Il fait luire par ses regards l'or pur de tes cheveux roux, la blancheur de ta chair ardente. Le baiser de ta lèvre aimante est encore plus doux. Moi, tout baiser d'enfant. Pour cette trône, on doit approuver à la source de ton amour, mon pauvre corps cruellement blessé, agonise la nuit et le jour de tes caresses si folles, si douces, il gardera jusqu'au bout, la coulée du temps aura changé hélas ce qui fit son tourment. Car tes beaux yeux s'éternueront de tes lèvres jolies, auront fui les folles chansons, les baisers fous, ma vie, lors de tes cheveux pâliront. dira sa chanson d'amour et son triste rêve. Il gardera les empreintes rouges jusqu'au jour la coulée du temps aura changé, hélas, ce qui fit son tourment.
Pierre Van de Weghe, if you could tell us, that was Armand
Crabbe, yes.
I think he was born in 1892.
Yes.
And he didn't live that long, right?
No, he died in 47.
But
he was the most popular baritone we had in Belgium. And he was very, very fier, how do you translate that? Proud that he was chosen by Toscanini to sing Beckmesser in the Italian version of the Meistersänger in La Scala in Milano. He repeated it constantly. I sang on the Toscanini, and but he only sung once Beckmesser in an Italian version in the.
Well, there are many tenors who bill themselves as Toscanini's tenor, so here was Toscanini's baritone.
Yes, I have other examples.
So what is your pleasure?
The next singer is what we call our Clara Nationale, that is Clara Clairbert.
And you have the material ready to hand to me?
Yes, I wanted to say that maybe some people will appreciate that after the aria Salut à la France from La Fille du Régiment, you hear Donizetti, yes, you hear a little interview, the ending of an interview with Clara Clairbert in which she thanks her audience. And Clara Clairbert died in 69 and was born in 1899, I believe.
And despite her name, wasn't she Flemish rather than...
She was Flemish, yes. Her real name was Claire Impens, and she was born in Lede, nearby Ghent. And during the First World War, she was the secretary of the Belgian government in La Haye. It's only after the First World War that she started her career in Brussels, singing in operetta theaters under the name Clariani. And then someone from the Monet, Madame Talma, heard her and said, Quoi? Vous ne chantez pas la Monet? What? You don't sing at the Monet? I will arrange an audition for you. But she didn't want to present her to the directors of the Monet under the name Clariani, under which she sang in different operetta theaters, and she made from Clariani Clara Clairbert.
A beautiful name. And our number is 203-268-9667. It's Belgian opera singers. Your requests for singers, a repertory, and your comments on this topic. Who's been to Belgium? Do we have any Belgians listening? Give us a call, folks.
early 60s, and if people will forgive me, but I will play another item of her, and that is her war horse, L'Acmé, the Air des Clochettes, that was recorded in 1930, as all the recordings were. On the edge, but the greatest characteristic of her voice was that she had an enormous volume. She sang once. She came once. She came once to the United States with to give a concert with Beniamino Gigli in Chicago, where she told in that interview that she sang before 13,000 people, and that you could hear the voices as good on the last row of the... I don't know what building it was that could contain 13,000 people in Chicago. But,
well, maybe a listener will know and call and tell us.
But
maybe.
it was an impresario who came to the Monet, and he was looking for a coloratura who could sing in a big hall, in a big space. And he went on tour through Europe, and he came back to his first love, as I may call it, and engaged her for that trip to the United States. But that's the only time she sang abroad Europe. She was the first coloratura at the Monet and at the opera in Lyon.
Clara Clairbert.
Clara Clairbert.
If you've just tuned in, tonight it's Belgian opera singers. We have 2.5 hours more remaining of this material. We've had a number of calls and people have said it's fantastic. And again, you should put in on your tape recorders because much of this material has never been broadcast in the United States. Some of it's extremely rare and many fine singers. And my guest, Pierre Van de Weghe, is here from Ghent in Belgium to bring this to you. And Pierre, the next singer you have for us is one in whom you have a special interest.
A special interest and a special relationship, because I knew his voice since I was a little boy, because I collect 78s since the age of 12, and I always found records of a Flemish tenor called Joseph Sterckens, and I couldn't find any information about his career. And 30 years later, when I worked in Antwerp and lived in Antwerp for some years, I decided to look in old papers and visit old singers of the Antwerp Opera, and it seems that Sterckens has been a very important person in renovating, first in singing at the Flemish Opera in Antwerp, and later when he became director. He had only a short career of 10 years between 1925 and 1935, and then he became director of the Flemish Opera in Antwerp and gave many improvements to the scenery, the lighting. In 1934, he toured in Berlin for the UFA Studios, the first Flemish talkie. So he learned a lot about lighting, and etc., etc. He was the one who engaged the whole company for not for a season but for a whole year. So other opera houses, people, singers were without work during 3 or 4 months. Sterckens, I must say. In the States they will say Sterckens, changed that all. Unluckily enough, he stayed director in 1940, the invasion of Belgium by the Germans, and he was used by the Germans to make propaganda for Flemish culture, because we were suppressed by the French-speaking part of Belgium, and Sterckens, according to the Germans, yes. But it was the reality. Right. It was reality. It was a reality. And in 1942, he left the Flemish Opera, and that was his greatest mistake, that in 1942 he became director of the renovated Alhambra Theatre in Brussels. And that was a big hall where only German soldiers went, where German artists came to sing, where fascist parties and nationalistic Flemish parties held their high days, their marches and singing festivals. So after the war, immediately at the liberation in 1944, he was imprisoned in the lion's cage of the zoo of Antwerp and spent 3 weeks in that cage before they sent him to prison. He was liberated in 1945, the 1st May 1945, so 10 days before the war was over, and lost all his civil. He only got 1 year of jail, 1 year prison, and was already released the 1st of May 1945. So I think that being one of the first victims of the repression, and repression was very hard in the beginning at the liberation, they couldn't say or prove much against him than only the fact that he was a director of theater, a Flemish, Dutch and German theater in Brussels, who was totally Frenchified, in fact, Brussels. And he lost his civil rights and just died in 1950 before he was how do you call it?
Rehabilitated?
Rehabilitated, yes. Oh. But he created very progressive works in Dutch, of course, for the Flemish opera, and the 2 examples that I will give here are the arias from the opera Slay from Wolf-Ferrari, yes, and another one from La Campana Sommerse by Ottorini Respighi, recorded in 1930. I must excuse me for the surface noise. It has nothing to do with wear on the discs, but pressing at a too high temperature of the discs 70 years ago. So sorry for that.
There's
but
nothing
I think
the matter with your radio reception if you hear this noise.
No.
Material.
It's maybe irritating, but it are 2 very rare recordings, and I knew that the collectors are looking for that particular disc by Sterckens and not the other ones.
We're at 203-268-9667.
Diese Stunde liegt der Uhr in der Armen von einem anderen, wenn wir genießen von Welt. Sieh doch hin, das Schönes am Thenor. Man kommt ein armes Leid, Fabrik, in die wird verwehren. Schnell ab an der Chessie, an der Petty, trinken, machen, Bären, bei mit den Bären tanzen, nein, nicht mehr, Missadiger, Mann, die will ein lange Niedern in Hamburg, Berlin, Metzger. Peter tranen. Ach, met een enkel hart dat met het mijne viel, dat met het mijne voelde, een weinig licht voor u verstoten het lijf, een weinig liefde smaakt, eenmaal blijft gelukkig zijn.
Pierre, please tell us what we just heard. Those two items were...
From Sly and La Campana Sommersa, but I forgot to mention that they were sung in Dutch, as everything was sang at the opera in Antwerp. That's why it was called the Flemish Opera. They sang everything in Dutch.
Is this still the case today?
No,
houses in
because
Belgium that,
it's sorry to say about my native tongue that it's maybe the worst language to sing opera in.
well, how about Czech? Czech would be
Yes,
right up
maybe,
there.
I don't know. But there are some beautiful things, like the following song, sung by Francine Lepage. It's again a name who sounds French, but it's a Flemish lady who is still living in Antwerp, and she sings Ik ken een lied. I know a song my mother told me.
And you have written to me and told me that you feel this is the most beautiful Flemish song there is.
Yes, by a composer named De Mol.
Ik ben
Francine Lepage, that's I Know a Song, sung in Flemish.
Yes. I know another song by Sterkens, a pop song about Greta Garbo. I think it's the only recording that exists about Greta Garbo.
Now we need to hear, by the way, from listeners at 203-268-9667 if you know another pop song about Greta Garbo.
Garbo, yes.
Because we want to get that too. But this is by Jozef Sterkens. Do you recall the words? I'm sure they're profound and sublime, but...
Yes, you are my Greta Garbo. Gij zit mijn Greta Garbo.
Okay.
But I must say that Sterkens had a liaison with one of the sopranos of the Flemish opera, who was one of the most beautiful women of Antwerp, and there was a certain resemblance between Greta Garbo and that lady. So I think the text is by Sterkens himself, and I think he wrote it for her. But it's German music. It comes from a German musical movie of the early 30s. Du bist meine Greta Garbo is the original title. Let's listen to it.
Verschijnt bij vrouwen geen geluk, een kleine truc, zo vraagt u behoren. Zeg niet dat hen, mijn vogelijn, mijn engelen, zing hen in doren. Gij zijt mijn Greta Garbo, mooiste vrouwtje ihrer paar. Blond zit jij als Greta Garbo, nog altijd mij meer waard. Of je lieve zachte wimpers knipperen, zoals harmonie. Zo mooi altijd, zo braaf altijd, Greta Garbo uit Hollywood. Een vogelliefde gloed, mijn meisje zoet, wil aan mijn hart warmen. Jij alleen zult mijn liefje zijn, ik noem u rein in mijn armen. Zij zijt mijn Greta Garbo, het mooiste vrouwtje hier op haar. Blond zijt jij als Greta Garbo, nog altijd mij meer maakt. Of uw lieve zachte wimpers knipperen, zoals harmonie. Zo mooi altijd, zo braaf altijd, Greta Garbo uit Hollywood. Zachte wimpers knipperen, zoals harmonie. Zo mooi altijd, zo braaf altijd, Greta Garbo uit Hollywood.
Tenor Jozef Sterkens, correct my Flemish, Pierre.
It's okay, it's okay.
In You Are...
my Greta Garbo.
We didn't get a call from anyone, so perhaps that is the only song about Greta Garbo. But,
I hope it.
And did we mention that that you have written an article for the Record Collector magazine about Joseph Sterck.
No, that's why I know all those details of his life, because I discovered in Antwerp the friend of his mistress, and she told me all his life, and in fact the sad story of his life and career. Because when he died, he was only 50, and he never overcame that punishment that was given to him after the war. He was a 19th century romantic person who had been misled by the Germans and by the German propaganda, and really didn't knew what purpose the Germans had with their Flamenpolitik, as they called it.
Well, as an outsider in this country, it's always seemed to me that some of the people caught up after the war in both, I didn't know about Belgium, but in France, received these extraordinarily harsh penalties for things that I wouldn't even consider crimes.
Yes, and Belgium is the only country in Europe where amnesty still isn't given to people who has done something wrong during the war. We are a unicum on that.
Including maybe the kind of things that Sterckens did.
Yes, so the children and the grandchildren of those persons are still suffering. Properties, houses that belonged to their grandparents are still under sequester, we call it.
They were expropriated by the government.
Belong to the state. They can't get a pension, etc. So
for things that would not be considered a crime, it's an ex post facto or post hoc punishment.
And one had to live, of course, during the war. It was much easier to fly to England and then to come back in 44 and say we are the great heroes, the anti-Nazis, but in fact you needed more courage to stay and to work under the occupation. But it was, of course, difficult to how far could one go. Of course, in the opera, everyone who wouldn't sing was forced to go to Germany to work in Germany. So, whole the company of the Flemish Opera stayed at their place and sung directly after the liberation. They sung. The opera has never been closed, even under the V2s and V1s bombardments. Armand Crabbe sang The Barber of Seville, and the editor of the Record Collector, James Dennis, the first editor of the Record Collector, was at that time in Antwerp, and he saw a Tosca with Armand Crabbe and soprano called Clara de Winter, and during the Te Deum scene in the first act, V2s were falling on Antwerp, and he said, I never saw a more impressive first act of a more impressive Te Deum with a Scarpia like Crabbe, who was a great actor, and the public who stayed rested very calm. There was no panic, nobody left the hall, and the performance went further on. While on that moment, a V2 felt on a cinema 200 meters in the environment of the opera, killing more than 1,000 people.
Oh my God. Oh.
So after this sad story, let's continue.
All right, Pierre, I'd just like to mention that we've now reached the halfway mark We've had 2 wonderful hours of Belgian opera singers tonight, and we have 2 hours remaining. And stick with us, folks. Meet your requests for Belgian opera singers we haven't yet presented this evening, and to take your comments about what you've heard, pro and con. And if you're a little unclear about the particular singers, maybe you'd like to hear something from by a particular composer. We have especially a lot of material in the French repertory, etc., etc. So call us at 203-268-9667. The wonderful Belgian tenor, and Pierre Van de Weghe. What did we hear there? That was La Dame Blanche?
La Dame Blanche, an opera that was very popular during a century and that now is rarely performed in Europe and I suppose in the United States also. But it was every year on every roster of every French opera in Europe, from Amsterdam to Paris, and from Paris to Berlin, known as Die Weiße Dame. Everybody sung it and the public loved it. André d'Harcourt, a balloon tenor, and I believe we have now a Flemish tenor, Theo Bates, but who also sang the French and German repertoire. And the first recordings we hear are from Rayer's opera Sigurd. First we hear the entrance of Sigurd, then un souvenir poignant, a terrible souvenir, and the pièce de résistance, if I may call it so, from that opera is an aria known by every collector and all the opera des fables, Esprit Gardien.
Theo Bates.
Theo Bates.
It looks like Beats, but it's
Beats, but
Bates.
it's Bates. He was born in 1890 and finished his career in 1954 in the opera in Ghent as Herod in Richard Strauss.
What was it, Gerard?
As Herod in...
Oh, Herod, yes.
Herod in Richard
And,
Strauss. Salome, yes.
yes.
That's it.
All
was.
right, and...
But he sung the... He was a baritone as well as a tenor.
Baritone Martin?
That I don't know, because there are no recordings of him as a baritone. So I think he preferred the tenor fach. But curiously enough, these recordings by Polydor were made before his great career really started. So Polydor must have used him probably because he was cheap at that moment, and when he became famous, they didn't make any records anymore with Bates. So he only made 4 or 5 12-inch recordings and 2 or 1, I'm not sure, 10-inch, among which are the entrance of Sigurd and the Souvenir Poignant. So let's listen to him.
We had a call from Ray Buzak. He had a request. It will soon be granted. And so you call us with your requests and comments, folks.
peut-être trop pire. Si vous voulez savoir ma patrie et mon nom, ça fait figure, sur toi, si amour.
Is Sigur, an opera you don't hear every day, probably not even in Walloon, Belgium, right?
No,
Pierre?
it's forgotten.
Theo Bates singing those three items.
Theo Bates is forgotten and Rayers Sigurd is forgotten.
We enjoyed hearing from Jackie Steiner in Norwalk and from Barbara Neeson in Fairfield. Barbara had a request for wanted to hear something from the Pearl Fishers. I doubt that's going to be possible tonight, but if we can do it, we'll do it. But I'm delighted that they called, and maybe callers should have 2 or 3 choices, because then we could almost certainly do it, as we're going to be doing it for Ray Buzak quite soon. And Pierre, any comments, or what should we do next?
Well, maybe something in Flemish again, and that can please someone who telephoned for operetta.
Yes.
That is a friend of mine, a soprano, Flemish soprano, Mia van den Bos, singing a pop tune, Uw glimlach is mijn zonneschijn. Your smile is my sunshine. Recorded in 1954 on an acetate disc, so it's the only copy. But a very fine melody.
Should I put that right on, or any
Yes,
additional?
yes. Uw
Pierre, what was that we just heard?
That was Mia van den Bosch in a live recording. It was an air check made in 1954. She was born in 1912, made her debut in the Flemish Opera in Antwerp in 1938, and sang different times Rigoletto with Armand Crabbe, who always sang in Dutch at that moment. So you can imagine Crabbe, who spoke no word of Dutch, had to sing phonetically the whole Rigoletto score. I'm sorry I wasn't there to hear it, what he made from it.
Now, we've had some requests for operetta.
Yes, but we had also a request in the beginning of the program from somebody who asked, no.
Well, you're showing me a baritone, I won't name him, but I'm wondering if I could play another baritone such as Louis Richard or Georges Villiers, West Haven and Ray and Seymour. So with Georges Villiers, and he's actually Flemish, right?
Yes.
He's not French.
No. He began his career in 1913 in the Flemish Opera. So his real name is Villiers.
You can't tell your Belgians without a program, so to speak, if I may say. Now, we have several items. I don't know if you want to buy Villiers.
Yes.
How many would we want to play? We have 3 operetta items. Do you want to play all of them, or one of them, or 2 of them, or?
No, I would. Louis Varney's Les Mousquetaires au Couvent. It's a very pleasant aria, so let's take that.
Very good. And we're continuing to get calls. We'd love to hear from you at 203-268-9667. Julio de la Torre called back and he said, "Hey, Doug, the reason you're not getting more calls is during a great meal, one doesn't talk, he eats." His wife Ellie lived in Belgium, and although she's not crazy as we are about vocal music, she enjoyed the experience, enjoying this experience tonight. Julio had a request, and he says the music you're playing is extraordinaire. And
I thank him from the bottom of my heart.
Brave mousquetaire, il faut avoir l'esprit joyeux. Mon cœur est mauvais caractère, ça bien battrait pour encore mieux. Et pour faire toute son ivresse, je perdrai notre raison. Comme on change de garnison, il sied de changer de maîtresse. Oui, la vie, c'est bien là, se conduire en vrai mousquetaire. À nous les folles nuits d'ivresse, d'un généreux cœur sans façon. À nous plaisir, gloire et maîtresse. Vive l'amour et les chansons. Triste, songeur et solitaire, montrant tout à son noir souci, garde avec les airs de mystère des façons d'amoureux transis. Contre ce mal qui l'importune, je lutte en vain et je le vois, qui rêve tandis que je vois rime des sonnets à la lune. Oui, la vie, car sans façon, à nous plaisir, gloire et maîtresse, vive l'amour, l'amour c'est la
So, Pierre, that's the operetta? That
The
some people
operetta,
wanted?
yes. And sorry for those who don't like a little bit heavier music. We will have the Belgian bass, Lucien Van Oberg.
Who was requested by Russ Hornbeck.
Oh,
And you have an unusual item maybe by him.
yes, a very beautiful item. It's the aria of the father from Louise. Donc l'air du père de Louise by Charpentier.
This is Can Poor People Be Happy?
Yes.
Les Pauvres Gens.
A strange name.
Do you want to tell us anything more about Van Oberg now? Or?
Well, Van Oberg began his career also in musicals and operetta theaters, but soon became an important bass at the Monet. He started there his career after the First World War in that famous opera La Muette de Portici that was played every time the country escaped a disaster or a catastrophe. So in 1919 they set up a Muette de Portici with Anso, Van Oberg, and Van Oberg has always been the president of the Purification Committee after the wars. So it was a real patriot who in 1919 and in 1945, when he was still singing, was the man who decided who could sing further after the occupation and who could not. So it was, in fact, Van Oberg who spoke the sentence out for Sterkens, yes. That's the true history.
We're at 203-268-9667. Les Pauvres Gens from Charpentier's Louise is sung by
Lucien Van Oberg.
Thank you, Pierre. Recording made, that would be around in the 30s?
Yes, all beginning of the 30s. Polydor recorded all those Belgian singers between 1928 and 1932.
And I'm looking at the sleeve of this, and it says, En souvenir de ma visite à Danbury. Pierre, because you gave me this LP, and I'm deliriously happy. Thank you so much, Pierre. Because this doesn't grow on trees here. I've never seen this LP.
Well, I have only 78, right, so I can permit myself to give an LP away.
Well, it's great. And we had a request from, I didn't take the call myself, and we've been helped immeasurably tonight by Pierre's sister, Diane Van de Weghe. She's been answering the phone and as a real workhorse. We think the caller's name was Walter. Anyway, the caller wanted Offenbach, and we got it, right, Pierre?
Yes, by Levin Mertens. Levin Mertens was the mezzo-soprano of the Monet, because all those singers we know here, Clara Clairbert, André Darcor, Van Oberg, Levin Mertens, were the members of the company of the Monet. So we are, in fact, hearing toute la troupe, the whole troupe of the Monet. And Levin Mertens sang...
Don't worry, just...
Levin Mertens sang from 1932, I believe, until the end of the 1940s. And she's mostly known by collectors from her 78 she made with Meyer, L'Enfant et les Sortilèges de Maurice Ravel. But here we have her in a very funny song from an operetta by Offenbach, La Grande Duchesse de Gerolstein, Voici le sabre de mon père.
Now, I'm wondering if I could also put, right after that, without a break, this José Beckmans. Would that be okay?
Oh, yes.
Now, this is for two people. This is for Russ Hornbeck, who requested more Beckmans. And this is for
Walter.
L'uomo che non mi chiama, Giacomo di Pisa di Norwalk. You know Giacomo di Pisa, Jack de Pisa, because he sent you that South Pacific. Say hello to Jack. Peter.
Hello, Jack.
Hello, Jack. And Jack,
I hope you have a pleasant evening.
Even though you avoid us, we still love you. And because we have from Tosca in French, C'est la giurata fede debbo tradire of Scarpia for you, Jack, okay?
Bras
appétit, mon soupir me réclame. Mais quelle angoisse, ah, ma belle madame, asseyez-vous là, et nous allons chercher ensemble comment le sauver. Voyons, cherchons ensemble. Rien qu'une larme du vin d'Espagne, deux gouttes pour vous remettre. Oui, l'on m'a dit pénal, peut-être est-ce vrai, mais pour une belle je me perds de tout autre monnaie. Si pour de beaux yeux je dois trahir ma foi, il me faut un salaire ou l'or ne serait qu'un heure. Je l'attendais. Cette heure, tu vas l'amour brûler mon être, mais tu viens de m'apparaître plus belle que jamais. Tes pleurs comme une lame brûlaient mon âme. Tes yeux dont la haine avivait la flamme embrasaient ton esclave. Et malgré ta colère et ses noms à l'ivresse, je jurerai que serait ma maîtresse.
Two very different items. Voici Le Sable de mon père from La Grande Duchesse de Gerolstein by it's Levin.
Levin Mertens.
And then José Beckmann's in Scarpia's great scene from Act 2 of Tosca, C'est la Girata Fede in French. And Pierre, I'd just like to mention before we continue, it's 11 o'clock now. And I'd like to tell the audience what's coming up on Evening at the Opera the next 3 weeks. Tuesday, June 9th, there'll be two operas of Rimsky-Korsakov, Le Coq d'Or, Zolotoy Petushok, and The Maid of Pskov. Marty Lippman will be here to do the honors. I'll be back in 2 weeks with The Flying Dutchman. Not the Flying Fleming, but The Flying Dutchman.
Yes.
And Wagner. And in 3 weeks, Don Goldberg will return with the second installment of his TV's opera theater program, sound audio material from the early days of television when complete operas were staged on television in the United States. But We'll be right back with you, folks.
You're listening to WMNR Fine Arts Radio. WMNR Monroe, Connecticut at 88.1 FM, WRXC Shelton and WG.
Go to Wagner now?
Yeah, risk ourselves with another tenor.
Why not?
And the man in question is José de Trévy, who was a pupil from the famous Ernest van Dijk, maybe the most famous Belgian singer of the whole history of recording. And he was a pupil of Van Dijk, and Van Dijk said, "You are a light tenor, not a Helden tenor, study light opera." And he sung light opera like Mignon, the heaviest roles he sung were Don José and Carmen, who, by the way, he recorded entirely on disc gramophone. And then in 1930, a professor in Paris switched him on to a Wagnerian Helden tenor, because they were in desperate need of a Wagnerian tenor at the opera. And he took his chance, and in some months' time, it's unbelievable when you listen to a record of 1929 of the Trévy and one of 1930, it looks like another person who is singing. So,
now we have.
But the examples are rare of his Wagnerian output. So we have only 2 Tannhäuser recordings of him.
And would you like
Well,
me to
I
play
have.
both? Would you like me to play both of these?
Yes.
Okay. First, we have from the singing contest. Begins with old Wolfram and the exchange of Tannhäuser with the other singers, and then the second item is it the Blickisch vom Heer, the address to the. Oh no, I think it's well, not Blickisch vom Heer. That's the baritone. So, well, let's just put them on. We'll take it afterwards.
Listen first.
But it begins with that singing contest in Act 2. José de Trévy.
On disc gramophone, and the orchestra, which I never mentioned, is conducted by Piero Coppola, who was the artistic director of the gramophone company in Paris.
Quel pouvoir t'inspire, quel pauvre amour pleure en tes vers, ces froids transports, ce froid délire, vont attrister tout l'univers. Que l'on sent vivre, le cœur qui bat auprès du mien, le corps dont la beauté m'enivre, mêlant son être avec le mien. Voilà le chant qui m'appelle, je m'abandonne à ses plaisirs, j'accepte ce éternel, comme éternel, comme mes désirs, un seul mot, au feu en flamme, qui passe bleu, toujours soirée. C'est ainsi, Wolfram, que mon âme tendra la mer, ardente et vraie.
Sous un Danko, la vie intérieure.
No, l'invitation au voyage.
Au voyage, I'm sorry. of is that also du Parc? Or,
Yes, it's du Parc.
Yes, I can't tell anything now. What's my name? Well, we're listening to Belgian opera singers.
The most famous of all was Anso, internationally seen. By the woman was Bovie, and by the man it was Anso. I'm not a great admirer of Anso, but I always cherished his record of Mon Havana
And
by Henri Février. I don't know if you have it.
yes, I can do that. That's the Elle est à moi.
Elle est à moi, Havana. Also at the end of his career.
With Elle est à moi from February's Mon Havana.
Yes.
Bernard Anso. And now we have the baritone Louis. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been listening, you know that we just took a hit, lightning hit, but we're back on the air. And Pierre,
We will listen to Louis Richard, one of your favorite Belgian singers.
this great baritone. And here's the couplet de Milicanta from Lacme. We heard an earlier version. Baritone Louis Richard, the Lacme Ton du Regard from the Delibes Opera. And we presented to you 4 hours of great Belgian opera singers, much material rare, not heard on the radio before in this country. This is all due to Pierre Van de Weghe, my guest tonight, who came from Belgium to do this program. Pierre, we can't thank you enough.
It was a pleasure for me.
Faint compared to
Included the jet lag, it was a pleasure.
Well, you did a great job, and people have praised you, and I'm among them. And remember, folks, Fine Arts Radio is music 24 hours a day, so stay tuned. The music will continue. Good night, all.
Good night.